Can I ask two questions?
Yeah.
So my first question is, do you believe that dinosaurs and all the dinosaurs existed, and do you believe that they coexisted with humankind? That's my first question.
Yes.
So you believe dinosaurs did exist and they coexisted with humanity?
Yeah, and in fact, what we find in the fossilized remains is entirely consistent in what we would expect to find if there was a worldwide flood.
So Adam and Eve lived alongside the Deinonychus and the Tyrannosaurus Rex sort of thing?
Yeah.
Cool.
Were you thinking that science is proclaiming that the Earth is billions of years old? That might mitigate against the Genesis account of creation, that the Earth is relatively young?
Not necessarily specifically that. My reading of Genesis doesn't necessarily give it an age because it talks about, days of creation that in theory.
What are you talking about, dude? Meet Christians, meet your God, Yaldabaoth.
Isn't that you who posted that?
Well, whenever the word yom, the Hebrew word for day, is accompanied by an ordinal and the phrase evening and morning, it always refers to a 24-hour period. The overwhelming reason why people want to not opt for what the Bible plainly says is because they're intimidated of the modern paradigm that the earth is billions of years old.
Bible is fake, by the way.
You see, I'm not intimidated by that. Right?
Right. So
now, I'm gonna tell you something you've never been told before. Anybody who advances scientific evidences that the earth is old is going to be using a type of circular reasoning. Are you aware of that?
So you are a young earth creationist?
Yeah, I am. Now, did you know that in order to present radiometric isotope dating methodologies and its calculations, you first have to presuppose that the earth is old? Did you know that?
No, not really.
Yeah. You have to presuppose that the earth is not the product of a fiat creation in the recent past. So, for example, what if the earth were created 1 month ago with all the memories of history intact? What would that mean for the interpretation of the data? It would mean that the interpretation of the data is incorrect. Well, what if the earth was created 1 year ago with all the memories of history intact? Well, the same would be true.
Can I just clarify that I understand what you mean?
Yeah, what I'm simply saying is, whatever framework that we have, okay, about the age of the earth, we're going to have to start with a metaphysical commitment first, not a scientific one. The appeal to radiometric isotope dating, you have to presuppose that the earth is not the product of a fiat creation in the recent past, meaning in the thousands of years, and you have to presuppose that the earth has undergone eons of materialistic development, even before you can put radiometric isotope dating on the table. So what we have here is a metaphysical position about the nature of the earth and origins masquerading as science. Okay, let me give you another example. Do you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
Yes.
Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson, is a highly paid lecturer. He shows up on TV shows, and he goes on TV shows and he tells people, you know what's really, really cool? He goes, "We are stardust." Do you ever hear that before? We're stardust.
Yeah,
okay.
I heard it.
Now, is that a scientific statement?
It is presented as that, yes.
Do you think it is?
Well, I'm sure it's based on something they call science, so I call it scientific statement.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's based upon a materialistic framework. It's not science. Now,
Right.
It may be the case that higher elements are being formed in the furnaces of stars right now as we speak. I don't doubt that. But it doesn't necessarily follow from that the higher elements in my body were formed in the furnaces of stars. The only reason why Neil deGrasse Tyson asserts that is because he's an atheist and a materialist. He believes that the origin of all things is just because of the substrate of material things and energy. And that the history of the existence of the universe is simply of one of a materialistic existence and progression. That's not science. You know what? I watch the Science Channel quite a bit, and how the universe came to be, how the Earth came into existence, and I see these these astrophysicists talking boldly on the Science Channel. You know what they don't tell you? That a lot of these guys are foaming at the mouth materialist atheists. They don't tell you that.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Yeah.
So my first question is, do you believe that dinosaurs and all the dinosaurs existed, and do you believe that they coexisted with humankind? That's my first question.
Yes.
So you believe dinosaurs did exist and they coexisted with humanity?
Yeah, and in fact, what we find in the fossilized remains is entirely consistent in what we would expect to find if there was a worldwide flood.
So Adam and Eve lived alongside the Deinonychus and the Tyrannosaurus Rex sort of thing?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I've seen some evidence for that myself in the fossil record, the trilobite beds, etc.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. If people are going to reject God's self-disclosure of the origin of all things, right? They think that they're going to be on the high ground of science, but they won't be able to defend science. Okay? Because you have to have a metaphysical outlook to even talk about science. Is the external physical world real? Does nature operate in terms of causal connections between events? Are these causal connections that they presuppose, do they operate according to laws and hence uniformity? And what provides for that continuity?
So can I ask my second question?
Sure.
Do you believe in outer space, distant planets and galaxies, or do you believe in like a closed system with a firmament dome and a flat, stationary, geocentric Earth?
It's not entirely clear what was meant by the firmament.
Yeah.
Do I believe in a flat Earth? No, that's ridiculous.
What about a solid firmament dome?
As I already told you, the Old Testament isn't entirely clear as to what the complete nature of the firmament was.
And do you believe in like outer space and like infinite galaxies and planets, or do you believe that Earth is like a unique system that God created?
The infinite is nowhere to be found. Okay. Do I believe that there are other galaxies? Sure, we have telescopes, we can see them.
Okay, because not all Christians do. Some believe it's literally like a closed, like clockwork system, like a snow globe, with a flat Earth and like Christians
those
and Muslims.
those are kooks.
Well, Christians and Muslims and Hindus.
No, people who believe in a flat Earth are either trolls or they're nut jobs.
Respectfully, sir, I don't believe in a flat Earth, but I have spoken to intelligent, passionate people that I know are sincere.
It doesn't matter. People can be intelligent and whack jobs. In fact,
well, yeah,
I'm in my 50s. I've known a number of people that have extremely high IQs that are whack jobs. I know somebody. One of my relatives who is an extremely high IQ. Okay, very, very, very high. Here's a guy who could read a science textbook once and just be able to quote almost everything back to you, maybe not word for word. And yet this guy was fooled. Do you know what Y2K?
Yeah.
You ever heard of Y2K? This same guy who had an extremely high IQ was utterly bamboozled by Y2K.
Well, Y2K was, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how old you are, But
I am
at the
31 years of age, sir.
okay, so you probably have some recollection. Okay, so you were probably like 10ish,
Well,
10 or
my
11.
uncle actually was fully convinced by the Y2K thing, and he prepared and stocked up and went out to his cabin and had everything ready for there to be a collapse in Y2K. So I remember that.
Yeah. So having a high IQ, even vast intelligence, does not secure you from being deceived.
Absolutely. I think we're all in the same boat in that regard.
You see, in 2 Thessalonians, it states that in the last days, as humanity accelerates its rebellion against God, God is going to providentially permit a damning delusion to pervade the earth to those who receive not a love of the truth and believe the lie. Do you know what the lie is in the Bible? It is believing that we are not creatures of a creator, okay? That we are just simply a part of just not, I don't want to use the word creation, just a material existence that is not the product of a creator.
Right.
Well, that's where we are today, and it's sweeping. It had its impetus in terms of a spreading worldwide with Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
Now, there were pagan views of the lie that went back thousands of years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But there's never been one that has swept the globe like materialism and evolution.
That's true.
Okay?
Yeah. I agree.
And so being highly educated and having a high IQ is not going to protect somebody from
No.
a variety of satanic deceptions, because Satan's deceptions do not come, like he's masquerading in a costume party.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you believe in Satan as a opponent of God, who is a fallen angel leading demons in rebellion against God, and also demons tempting and seducing and corrupting humans.
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. And
But
do you believe?
See, yeah. Well, you have to understand that the so-called physical evidences are just circular reasoning for an old Earth and an old universe.
Oh, that was the question. Okay. So in the Bible, and I'm not, again, I'm on the same side as you, but in the Bible, for example, there's a verse that says, the ants are running about, and I'm paraphrasing, and they have no leader to rule them, but still they know what to do and they do their job. So essentially the problem is it implies the reader doesn't realize that the ants have a queen, because they do in fact have a queen who is their leader. But the verse says, like, look at the ant who works diligently but has no ruler. So
do you know what that's referring to?
What?
Hey, maybe it's like an ant hive.
Bees, man. Bees have hives.
You know what I mean. There's like one female that runs the whole show.
Yes, the queen.
Yeah, the mama. She's badass, man. I mean big.
These things ain't ants.
I know that.
The queen is not issuing instructions. The ants are simply scurrying around doing what they are programmed to do genetically, as designed by God.
Right.
Okay? That would be like if you had a kingdom where there was a king, but the king wasn't putting out edicts and instructions for people to do this and people to do that, but all of the people in the kingdom were scurrying around doing their everyday activities, just trying to benefit everybody. Yeah. So in that sense, they have no leader that's giving instructions or edicts, even though there's a king. Mm-hmm. So there's no inaccuracy here.
Fair enough. I mean, my personal opinion as a Christian is like the Bible doesn't have to be scientifically perfect and inerrant, nor without contradiction.
Well, here's the problem.
It's true.
Why? Okay, listen. Here's the problem. Science is not infallible.
True.
And just because we've had amazing successes in advances in science doesn't mean that scientific descriptions or interpretations, especially dealing with origins, is on the same level to be trusted as putting a man on the moon or doing a heart transplant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem that people have is that the biblical account of origins differs from the origin stories of certain scientists. Do you know why? It's because the scientists are materialists, and many of them are atheists. And because scientists are deemed to be the super smart holy men of our day, we have to bow down to them because they told us that the earth is billions of years old and the animals all evolved. And, you know, they have their own Moses. Do you know what who their Moses was?
Who?
Charles Darwin.
Right. Darth?
Yeah.
You're Darth, right? They told me you're Darth.
Yes.
Okay.
Who's they?
So you obviously know a lot about the Bible and religion.
Who's they?
Well, just like in these chats, I don't know who said, but people were calling you Darth. So you obviously know a lot about Christianity and religion and the Bible and stuff, right?
I try.
Right, and you're a true believer, obviously. Yeah, I know you are, right? Can I tell you a story? And I swear to God, it's the honest truth. And it's going to sound weird, and it is a weird story, but I would honestly like your opinion from a biblical Christian point of view.
I'm listening.
Yeah, it's okay if I tell you the story?
Yeah, if it's not too long.
Well, we're waiting.
I'll try and tell as quick as I can. So basically, it was late, and I was in a strange state of mind, I'll admit that. But I went into a Tim Hortons coffee shop. Do you know Tim Hortons? It's a coffee and donut
in Canada.
shop.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a Canadian. So I went in, and it was close to midnight. And I sat down, and I had a piece of paper. I guess I got a coffee and a piece of paper and a pen. And I started writing the names of all the gods I could think of. Okay, and I'm not going to defend this. It was a mistake in retrospect, but it's the truth. So I wrote the names. So Hindu gods, Christian god, Muslim god, all the gods I could think of just on a piece of paper. And when I came to the end of the piece of paper, I wrote the name Satan, Satan. Okay. I know it's weird, but that's the truth. Okay. So then I got up, walked across the coffee shop, and a person like gestured to me and was like, "Hey," and got my attention. And I was like, sat down, and he's like, "Do you know my name?" It's like, "No, I don't know your name." He's like, "My name is Satan." He said, "You're a very special soul. Me and God have a wager for your soul. And basically, I'm the adversary. And I'm suffering, but like, don't you think since I'm the adversary, like, I'm not really a bad guy? I'm like God's adversary, so it's not that bad." I was like, "Well, it's up to God to judge. I don't really know, but I forgive you." And then he was like, "Well, I think you're becoming." No, he said, "I want to take you home and pin you to my wall." And then he said, "I think you're becoming the new Satan. I can see the horns growing from your forehead." And he pointed at my forehead. And I freaked out, and I got up and said, "I don't want to be Satan. I don't want to be God. I just want to be a person. I just want to be a human being. I just want to be a Christian." And then I walked to the window and got on my knees and said the Lord's Prayer. And I got up, and he was like, "Well, you're a great person, or you're an amazing person. It's great, you're like, to talk to me," or something. And then I got the fuck out of there. So here's the thing. If it was just a crazy guy in the Tim Hortons who introduced himself as Satan, that's one thing. But I also wrote the name Satan on a piece of paper like a minute before. So if you put the probabilities of those two things together, I've never done that before, ever. I never do it again. And I'll never meet someone like that again. So for those two things to happen at the same time within a few minutes of each other is statistically impossible. So what do you make?
No, it's not statistically impossible. It's simply a It's a statistical rarity.
Well, but I've never ever before written the name Satan on a piece of paper anywhere, or let alone in a
So
coffee
what?
shop.
So the guy saw you writing and he was goofing on you.
Well, he didn't see me writing.
How do you know that?
I mean, seems very unlikely.
He could have walked by you and you weren't paying attention while you were writing.
Sure, but I don't think that happened.
Well, you can't rule that out. And even if you could, so what? Coincidences happen. One time I was watching a video on YouTube of expert calligraphers. Okay. And when the one part of the segment got done and they went to the next expert calligrapher, we used his calligraphy pen to exactly duplicate the New York Times logo. Okay.
Okay.
But the calligrapher, it was sped up, so it was done very, very quickly. The very second that came on the screen, I had the TV news on, and the very second he started inscribing the New York Times, the announcer started telling a story about the New York Times. Ooh. You know, the fact of the matter is there are some strange coincidences. Okay.
So that would be your take on it, as just straight up coincidence and the guy was
No,
just
I
crazy.
I think the guy was simply goofing on you. He saw what you're writing on the paper and he was goofing on you.
Okay. Well, I wanted your opinion and I got it, so thank you. I mean, you could be right. There's no way to rule it out.
Listen, when you have in North America, I mean, you've got, Canada, the United States. We have, I don't know how many people in Canada.
I'm not sure.
We have about 330 million people in the United States. There's always going to be some really weird coincidences. Okay. Doesn't mean there's anything to it.
Because you believe in Satan, though, right? And you believe in demons.
Look, there was one time I was reading a book while watching the news, and I came across an obscure word, a very obscure word in English. I was familiar with it, but it was very obscure. The moment I read the sentence, the commentator on the news invoked that word. Ooh.
A little different than a person actually calling themselves Satan, because that just doesn't happen. Like, most people go through the whole...
Guess what? There are people who frequent coffee stops that are Looney Tunes.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's what I try and believe, too. And I have to believe. But when I think about the odds of it, it baffles my mind. But that's good, yeah. It's the best way to look at it. I mean, it's weird that, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I do believe in demonic activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that demons actually give information to people.
Yeah.
That's how Alcoholics Anonymous was started.